Breaking news, you're looking at video of one of the last times Oscar winner details this hour about the circumstances surrounding his death. His front door open, scattered pills on the bathroom countertop, one dog dead in the closet.
The news of Gene Hackman and his wife, Betsy Arakawa, passing away at their home in Santa Fe, New Mexico, has left the world in shock. Gene Hackman, a Hollywood legend with iconic roles beloved by many, endured heartbreaking abandonment by those closest to him in ways few could imagine. His father, a violent man, walked out on the family without a word. His mother passed away before she could witness her son's success on the big screen. His best friend, Norman Gary, succumbed to despair and took his own life. And there are many other painful stories that remain largely unknown. Yet, Hackman never let the pain defeat him. He lived with strength, passion, and an unyielding determination to fight back against life no matter his age. His story is not just about the loss of a star, but the closing chapter of a life filled with trials, resilience, and an indomitable spirit. Are you ready to hear the journey of a man who was abandoned but found the strength to keep fighting? A Hollywood legend, a commanding presence on screen, yet Gene Hackman departed in silence, leaving behind an unsolved tragedy. The news of his and his wife Betsy Arakawa's passing at their home in Santa Fe, New Mexico, not only shocked the public but also raised a series of puzzling questions. On that fateful day, a concerned neighbor called the police after noticing that the couple had not been seen for an extended period. When authorities arrived, they discovered Hackman and Betsy had passed away in separate rooms. One of their 3 dogs was also found dead, while the other 2 were still alive. The scene sent chills down the spines of many, as no one had expected a seemingly peaceful life to end in such eerie solitude. What truly unsettled the public was the reaction of one of Gene's 3 children. Leslie Ann Hackman, 58, told the press that the family was still waiting for official findings regarding the cause of death, as the couple's passing remained a mystery. Leslie and her sister, Elizabeth Gene Hackman, speculated that their father and stepmother may have succumbed to carbon monoxide poisoning from a potential gas leak. While the theory seemed plausible, investigators found no evidence of such a leak. Instead, according to the official report, Gene Hackman and his wife had likely passed away days earlier, as their bodies showed signs of decomposition. Leslie also stated that there had been no indication of any health issues with her father prior to his death. Although he was old, he was in great shape, she revealed, adding that he had not undergone any major surgeries in recent months. He enjoyed Pilates, yoga, and he still worked out several times a week, so he was in good health. What was even more surprising was that while the world was in shock over the passing of the legendary Gene Hackman and his wife, Leslie admitted that she was not too surprised, because her father was already 95 years old. Living in California, she had not seen or heard from her father, who led a reclusive life, for months. "We were very close. I hadn't spoken to them in a few months, but everything was normal and fine," she shared. As of now, Leslie has yet to travel to New Mexico and stated that she would not do so until the police completed their investigation. On February 27th, Leslie and her sister were spotted dining together at a Denny's restaurant in Burbank, California, appearing composed and cheerful. According to the Daily Mail, the photos were taken nearly a day after they received the news of their father and stepmother's passing. While the investigation could take months, one might expect a loving daughter to immediately fly out, inspect the scene, and arrange funeral proceedings. Instead, she made a different choice. Hackman's grandson, Tim Hackman, also spoke out. He revealed that Leslie was the only family member who remained in contact with Gene Hackman, but even so, they only spoke every few months. Tim shared that the last time he saw Gene Hackman was 11 years ago, at his father's funeral. It turns out that in his final years, Gene Hackman chose, or was fated, to live a life of isolation, detached from his family and closest connections. The lingering question remains, was this solitude his own decision, or was it imposed upon him by fate? Leslie sold the exclusive story to the Daily Mail, a tabloid known for paying sources to exploit sensational news. This has led the public to question, was she truly grieving her father's passing? Or was she capitalizing on the tragedy for attention? Would a genuinely heartbroken daughter think about selling her story just as the news of her father's death was breaking? Hackman was no ordinary man. He was born into hardship, lived with an unbreakable spirit, and never allowed himself to be defeated. Yet, in a cruel twist of fate at the end of his journey, he passed away in silence, with no loved ones by his side. After leaving Hollywood in 2004, Hackman chose a quiet life in Santa Fe, New Mexico. He and Betsy lived simply, far removed from the noise of the entertainment industry. No more lavish parties, no more flashing cameras, just an aging man searching for a sliver of peace in his final years. But perhaps it wasn't the kind of peace he had hoped for. He was last seen in 2023, dining with Betsy at a local restaurant. The photos captured an elderly man, frail yet still carrying the aura of a battle-hardened warrior. There were no scenes of children gathered by his bedside, no tears of mourning from his family. Only a man who had once been resilient, yet when he took his final breath, no one was there to witness it. The people who mattered most in his life, some abandoned him, while others he pushed away. Gene Hackman's death was not just the end of a Hollywood legend. It was the ultimate testament to the profound loneliness of a man who had lost too much in life. In the end, was it fate that chose him, or did he choose this fate himself? Gene Hackman grew up in a turbulent household, devoid of stability and warmth. His father, Eugene Ezra Hackman, worked in the newspaper printing industry, but his unstable job forced the family to move frequently. The relationship between Hackman and his father was strained, as his father was a strict man who often resorted to violence in disciplining his children. This created a suffocating home environment, driving young Hackman, a sensitive yet rebellious boy, to seek refuge in the basement, where he carved out a private space to feel safe. When Hackman was just 13, a life-altering event shattered his world. His father suddenly abandoned the family without a word. One morning, while Hackman was playing with friends at the end of the street, he saw his father drive by and wave. That was the last time Hackman ever saw him, and that moment haunted him for the rest of his life. In a 2001 episode of Inside the Actor's Studio, when James Lipton asked him about that memory, Hackman couldn't hide his emotions, admitting it was a difficult recollection. He shared, "I was at the end of the street playing with some guys, and he drove by and waved." When Lipton suggested that perhaps he had seen his father again after that, Hackman simply nodded in silence, holding back tears. The man who had taught him discipline and violence, who, despite his harshness, was still his only pillar of support, had now vanished. Hackman and his brother were left to live with their mother in their grandmother's house in Danville, Illinois. But instead of finding warmth from family, Hackman faced cold indifference and emotional neglect from his grandmother, who never truly accepted him. These experiences shaped Gene Hackman into a strong-willed and resilient individual, but also planted the seeds of rebellion and a lifelong sense of abandonment. Yet this was only the beginning. In the years to come, Hackman would continue to battle adversity, and at times, he would be the one creating the very storms that shook his life. Hackman was haunted by the fact that his mother was the only one in his family who believed in him and encouraged him to pursue acting. She saw his potential and reassured him that he could become a talented performer. But that love was not enough to erase the emotional distance and coldness within their family, especially as his mother struggled with alcohol and the hardships of life. Then, in 1962, tragedy struck. Hackman's mother passed away in a devastating house fire. The fire ignited after she fell asleep with a lit cigarette in her hand while intoxicated, quickly engulfing the house in flames. For Hackman, it was not just the loss of his mother. It was the unbearable sorrow of knowing that she would never witness the success he had fought so hard to achieve. The one person who had believed in him was gone, unable to see her son become a star and reach the heights she had once hoped for him. Though Hackman rarely spoke publicly about this tragedy, he once admitted in an interview that if he could choose one film for his mother to watch, it would be I Never Sang for My Father. The film mirrored his own life, a story of loss. In it, Hackman played Gene Garrison, a son struggling with a complicated relationship with his aging father, desperately seeking love and acceptance. It was not only a reflection of Hackman's real-life struggles with his father, but also a confrontation with the emotions he had carried with him throughout his life. Like Hackman's own life, the film was a journey of exploring emotional deprivation, a yearning for love and acknowledgement, things he had been deprived of throughout his childhood. Through the film, Hackman expressed the deep sorrow of unresolved pain and an unfulfilled longing for affection, something that was never easy to attain. To better understand the hidden depths of Gene Hackman's tumultuous life, you can find I Never Sang for My Father on streaming platforms such as Netflix, Amazon Prime Video, Hulu, or rental services like Google Play Movies and Apple TV. The pain of losing his mother and the cold indifference of his grandmother instilled in Hackman a deep sense of loneliness and a longing for love that never came. But life did not allow him to dwell solely on those wounds. In the years that followed, Hackman faced yet another devastating blow, the sudden loss of his closest friend, Norman Gary. Hackman had found solace in this friendship, as Gary was someone he could trust during difficult times. Yet when Gary chose to end his own life in 1982, Hackman not only lost a dear friend, but was also confronted with a painful truth. Time and again, the people he held dearest all left him. Norman Gary was not just a close friend, he was also a renowned entertainment lawyer, widely respected in the film industry. He had been instrumental in handling Hackman's legal affairs and contract negotiations, someone the actor trusted implicitly. Known for his dedication and ability to navigate complex situations, Gary seemed to have it all. However, beneath the surface of his professional success, he faced financial troubles that were never fully explained. His sudden passing left Hackman not only grieving but also plagued by lingering doubts, constantly wondering if there was anything he could have done to prevent the tragedy. Gary's death was more than just a painful loss. It left a gaping void in Hackman's life. It also gave rise to speculation and mystery surrounding the financial troubles that were never brought to light, forcing Hackman to live with unanswered questions. For a man who had already endured so much loss since childhood, witnessing loved ones disappear one after another led him to gradually close off his heart, seeking meaning in his work rather than in personal relationships. Yet not every loss leads to defeat. Hackman, with a survival instinct forged from a lifetime of struggle, chose to face his pain by immersing himself in his work. He channeled all his energy into acting, taking on role after role, not to escape his emotions, but to keep himself from being consumed by solitude. And it was during these relentless years of work that Hackman transformed his grief into motivation, delivering some of the most powerful performances of his career. His unwavering dedication cemented his status in Hollywood, earning him 2 Oscar nominations and reinforcing his undeniable talent and screen presence. After the emotional shock of losing his best friend to suicide, one might think fate would finally grant him respite. But it did not. The storm of marital discord soon arrived. Hackman buried himself in work, filming non-stop, moving from one set to another, traveling from city to city. His wife, Faye, and their children gradually became distant figures in his life. The phone calls home became less frequent, and his presence at family dinners turned into a rarity. In a 1989 interview with the New York Times, Hackman admitted, "You become incredibly selfish as an actor. You spend your entire life craving recognition, and when success finally comes, it's hard to say no. Money, fame, temptation, It's all too much for a poor kid like me to resist." Faye Maltese had waited patiently, but in the end, the distance between them had grown into an unbridgeable chasm. In 1986, after 30 years of marriage, they officially divorced. Hackman's first marriage ended quietly. No disputes, no battles, just the lingering regret of a man who realized too late what he had lost. In an interview with GQ, when asked about any advice he would give his son, Hackman bitterly admitted, "I was away from him for too long. I have no advice to give." Was it fate that decided this ending, or was it a choice he made himself? Either way, the cost of exchanging family for success was too high, and he came to that realization too late, with bitterness and sorrow. And though this may not have been a path he consciously chose, somehow fate always seemed to conspire to push him into a world of solitude, one where, in the end, he was truly alone. Gene Hackman was not just a Hollywood icon. He was a man who lived with an intensity that extended far beyond the silver screen. One of his greatest passions outside of acting was speed. Racing wasn't just a hobby for him. It was a way to regain balance in the high-pressure world of fame. His love for racing began in the late 1970s when Hackman joined the Sports Car Club of America, a fiercely competitive arena for both amateur and professional racers who shared a passion for speed. But Hackman didn't stop at amateur competitions. He pushed himself into larger events. One of his most memorable milestones was competing in the grueling 24 Hours of Daytona in 1983. There, he didn't just participate, he got behind the wheel of a Toyota for the legendary racer Dan Gurney's team, a privilege few could claim. He even went on to win the Long Beach Grand Prix Celebrity Race, proving that he wasn't just there for the experience, he was there to win. But with victory came danger. Hackman had his share of harrowing moments on the track. While competing in the 6-hour endurance race at Sears Point Raceway, he was behind the wheel of an Audi Quattro, one of the most advanced racing cars of its time. Disaster struck when the brakes locked up, sending the car tumbling mid-race. Fortunately, Hackman walked away unscathed, but the crash was a stark reminder that speed always comes with risk. True to his witty nature, he later joked that he should have had a stunt double for that moment. His love for cars wasn't confined to the racetrack. Hackman's personal collection reflected both his powerful personality and his evolving tastes over the years. In the 1980s and 1990s, he owned a Toyota Celica GT, the very car he raced in competitions. As time went on, his collection expanded to include some of the most exciting and stylish cars available. Porsche Panamera, a blend of power and luxury, Mercedes E-Class, a balance of comfort and class, Ford Mustang Shelby, an American icon of speed and performance, and Tesla Model S, a nod to his appreciation for modern technology and the future of automobiles. His collection wasn't just a display of wealth, it was a statement of passion. Every car told a story, reflecting a different chapter in his life. But as with many great passions, Hackman eventually had to step away from racing for the sake of his health. He candidly admitted that aging had affected his reflexes, and for a sport that demanded split-second reactions, there was no room for compromise. "You need to maintain quick reflexes, and when they start to decline, you have to stop," Hackman once said. "You begin thinking about old age and realize you have to take care of yourself more." It was a tough decision, but it showcased his pragmatism. He was a man who understood his limits and accepted them with grace. Through his love of racing, Gene Hackman proved he was not just an actor, but a fearless competitor, someone who embraced speed and challenge with the same intensity he brought to his films. Racing wasn't just a pastime, it was a way for him to assert his resilience, both on the track and in life. But even in his later years, Hackman continued to surprise people with his lifestyle choices. While many Hollywood stars indulged in collecting rare and extravagant supercars, Hackman remained loyal to a single vehicle, a Toyota Tundra. Not a flashy supercar, not a collector's edition rarity, but a practical, powerful, and reliable truck. It was a fitting choice for a man who had lived life on his own terms, unpretentious, strong, and never one to conform to expectations. A sighting of him at a gas station in Santa Fe, stepping out of his Tundra, left many people astonished. Not because the truck was anything remarkable, but because it was so incredibly ordinary for a Hollywood star of his stature. But for Hackman, that was exactly the point. A vehicle that got him where he needed to go, strong enough to handle any terrain, yet not overly extravagant to attract attention. It seemed that Hackman had come to understand a simple truth. The value of life isn't found in expensive possessions, but in peace and contentment. The Tundra was more than just a mode of transportation. It was a symbol of the lifestyle he had chosen after stepping away from the spotlight. A life free from noise, unburdened by the need for grandeur, yet still filled with quiet strength and unwavering determination, just like the man himself. Gene Hackman never stopped challenging himself, even after the stage lights had dimmed. He stepped into the world of literature with the same determination and creativity that had driven his acting career. Over nearly 2 decades, Hackman published 5 novels, each reflecting his deep perspective on history and human nature. From the high-seas adventure of Wake of the Perdido Star to the gripping tale of revenge and love in Payback at Morning Peak, he showcased his talent for crafting vivid characters and immersive settings. Notably, Pursuit, a crime thriller, carried echoes of his iconic role in The French Connection, marking a signature style that bridged new generations of readers with the legendary artist. Shifting from the screen to the page was not just a change in medium, it was Hackman's way of keeping his creative spirit alive. He didn't write simply to tell stories, he wrote to reflect himself. A man who had endured hardship, understood perseverance, and knew the longing for recognition. In a rare interview, Hackman once shared that writing allowed him to maintain artistic freedom, to control his own narratives without the constraints of Hollywood's rules. And through every page, he continued to inspire, proving that true artistry never truly fades. Hackman also dedicated time to painting, a passion he never made public. For him, painting was a form of release, a way to maintain balance in life. "I don't want anyone to see my paintings," he once said, revealing his desire to protect his private space. To Hackman, painting required no praise, no attention. It was simply a moment where he could be entirely himself, detached from the noise of the world and the burdens of being a Hollywood star. Through this, he found a rare sense of tranquility in a life that had always been illuminated under the spotlight. Hackman's passion for sports was just as remarkable. Among various athletic pursuits, he had a deep love for football. A devoted fan of the Jacksonville Jaguars, he frequently attended games to cheer for his team. For Hackman, football wasn't just entertainment. It was a way to connect with the community and immerse himself in the excitement that the sport brought. Though Hackman is gone, fans will always remember him as the embodiment of a true tough guy. One of the most memorable moments that showcased his resilience occurred in 2001, when he found himself in a street altercation in Hollywood. While driving, Hackman accidentally collided with another car. 2 young men stepped out, visibly angry, but instead of handling the situation calmly, they began hurling insults at Hackman, completely unaware that they were confronting a former Marine. At 71 years old, Hackman was not one to be intimidated. Without much exchange of words, he threw a punch in response. The 3 men brawled in the middle of a crowded street before the police arrived to break up the fight. No arrests were made, but the incident served as another testament to the fact that, even after leaving action films behind, Hackman never lost his fighter's instinct in real life. But perhaps Hackman's closest brush with death came in 2012. While riding his bicycle in Florida without a helmet, he was suddenly hit by a truck. News of the accident spread quickly, and fans feared the worst. Many worried he might be seriously injured, or worse. Yet, against all odds, Hackman survived. He sustained only minor injuries and was discharged from the hospital the same day. Those close to him revealed that despite his age, he never gave up his cycling routine, though after the accident, he became more cautious, never again riding without a helmet. That same year, another event proved just how fiercely protective Hackman was of those he loved. While walking with his wife Betsy in Santa Fe, he physically confronted a homeless man who had verbally harassed her. Reports stated that Hackman slapped the man in defense of his wife, but the incident led to no charges, further highlighting his deep sense of family loyalty. Later that year, at 82 years old, Hackman once again found himself in an accident when he was struck by a car while cycling in the Florida Keys. Though emergency responders rushed him to the hospital, he recovered quickly and suffered no lasting injuries. Another testament to his incredible resilience and toughness. Looking back at his younger years, Hackman's toughness was evident from the start. At just 16, he lied about his age to enlist in the United States Marine Corps. Restless and eager to escape a turbulent home life, he saw the military as a way out. But the strict environment of the Marines proved to be a challenge for someone as rebellious as Hackman. He often clashed with superiors, frequently facing disciplinary action for refusing to conform to rigid regulations. Despite this, his role as a radio technician gave him unforgettable experiences. He traveled to various parts of the world, even setting foot in China during the Mao Zedong era, exposing him to unfamiliar landscapes and cultures that broadened his worldview. But it wasn't all adventure. In one harrowing incident, he suffered a severe motorcycle crash when he collided with a tractor. The accident left Hackman with multiple broken bones, and he barely survived. After leaving the Marines, Hackman realized that military life was not for him. However, those years shaped his understanding of himself and became an essential chapter in his tumultuous journey. His life was marked by hardship, close calls, and constant battles, both literal and personal. But through it all, Hackman never bowed to adversity. Through the countless upheavals of life, Gene Hackman was more than just a talented actor. He was the embodiment of resilience and the unbreakable will to overcome adversity. Despite enduring immense loss and watching loved ones drift away one by one, he never allowed himself to fall. Each hardship, instead of breaking him, became fuel for his determination, propelling him forward to prove his worth in the world of art. The passing of Hackman and his wife, Betsy Arakawa, on February 26, 2025, not only left fans heartbroken, but also raised a lingering question. How could someone so strong, so full of life, depart in such silence? Yet the legacy he leaves behind, his legendary performances, his deeply expressive writings, will live on. He turned every pain into a story worth remembering, every setback into a step forward, ensuring that today we remember him as a legend who never backed down. Share your thoughts on Gene Hackman's remarkable life in the comments below. If you enjoy stories like this, don't forget to hit like and subscribe to continue following us on this journey. Click on the video on your screen to hear more about Gene Hackman's incredible story.